Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating journey. We're going to explore what really defines a powerful leader, a respected leader.
Yeah, and maybe not in the way people usually think about it.
Exactly. Forget what you think you know about, the flashy titles, the booming speeches, or even the latest management buzzwords.
All that surface stuff.
Right. Our mission today is to kind of peel back the layers and uncover the quiet yet immensely potent strength of what we're calling the confident, humble leader.
Confident, humble. It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does, but that's the core of it. It's a concept that challenges, I think, our modern obsession with charisma, with these larger-than-life figures. It suggests that, well, maybe we've been looking for leadership in all the wrong places.
It's a compelling paradox, yeah. Confident and humble, they often feel like opposites. But we're going to try and show how ancient wisdom, really from all across the globe, offers this profound alternative to our, let's say, contemporary fascination with just surface-level appeal and individual glory.
Okay, so what are we looking at today? What sources?
Well, we've got a rich tapestry.
Right.
We're sifting through Confucius's The Analects, obviously key,
Mm.
but also the spiritual insights of the Bhagavad Gita.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the Roman pragmatism of Cicero and Xenophon. And we're even bringing in modern leadership texts like Good to Great and Extreme Ownership.
Wow. Okay, so a real mix of old and new.
Exactly. The goal is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the real insights, challenge some common assumptions, maybe, and reveal these enduring truths about leading with, well, profound character and that quiet strength we mentioned.
That's right. And this isn't just, dusting off old books for the sake of it. We're extracting insights that are incredibly relevant for you, the listener, whether you're leading a huge company or a small team, a community project, or maybe just navigating your own personal journey.
It applies everywhere, really.
It does. So get ready for some genuine aha moments because we're about to unearth some surprising facts, different perspectives that will make you rethink not just what it means to lead effectively, but maybe how you can cultivate that authentic, powerful presence in your own life.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our foundational source,
Mhm.
the Analects of Confucius. This ancient Chinese text, maybe compiled, what, 2,500 years ago? Something like that?
Around that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly earlier fragments. It's old.
It offers a vision of leadership that feels profoundly different from what we often celebrate today. It's not about grandstanding, right? Not the public spectacle. It's about grounding yourself in something
Yeah.
deeper, something intrinsic.
Hmm.
So what immediately strikes you about Confucius's approach when you first, encounter his words on leadership? What jumps out?
Well, what's truly fascinating, and I think maybe deeply counterintuitive for a lot of us today, is how Confucius grounds leadership entirely in moral virtue and conduct. Not outward power, not strategic genius, not even just raw intelligence.
Like, not the usual metrics? Not at all. And he speaks to us today, I mean, it feels like his words were written yesterday. They just cut across the millennia. The very essence of his philosophy, especially for leadership, is what he calls authoritative conduct, or ren. That's the Chinese term.
Ren. Okay.
And it's not just a nice to have. For him, it's the absolute core. He immediately dismisses the idea that, outward charm or being a smooth talker defines a leader. Confucius explicitly says it is a rare thing for glib speech and an insinuating appearance to accompany authoritative conduct, ren.
Wow. So he's saying the slick talkers are unlikely to have this core virtue.
Pretty much. Think about that. He's saying a leader who is genuinely ren, deeply moral, human-hearted, authoritative in the best, truest sense, is probably not the one who's constantly performing, flattering, or relying on that superficial charm.
That's a powerful opening statement.
It really is, because
Yeah.
it directly challenges our default assumptions, right? Especially now, in a world saturated with carefully curated images and, PR. It forces us to ask, are we too easily swayed by just the surface-level charisma? Are we maybe mistaking a polished performance for genuine substance?
That's a crucial distinction. So you're saying Ren isn't just about being popular or charismatic. It's about inner character, like a kind of moral gravity.
Exactly. A moral gravitational pull. That's a good way to put it.
But let's be pragmatic for a second. In our world, which is so image conscious, isn't appearing charismatic almost like a requirement to even get a seat at the leadership table sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. That's a real tension.
So how does a leader who's committed to cultivating this Ren, this inner rectitude, navigate that initial hurdle? How do they get noticed without compromising? Is it just a slower path, maybe a harder path to influence in a world that values speed and flash?
That's an excellent point and a very real challenge. It definitely suggests that the Confucian path might be more of a slow burn, you
Yeah.
know, in terms of gaining widespread recognition. But the argument would be it ultimately builds a far more resilient and profound kind of influence.
Okay, so it's about lasting impact, not immediate fame.
Precisely. And the cultivation of Ren, it's not some abstract pie-in-the-sky ideal.
Yeah.
Confucius's disciples, they offer incredibly practical ways to develop it. They emphasize it's a daily practice, not some destination you arrive at.
Daily practice. Okay, like what?
Well, Master Zhang, one of Confucius's most respected students, gives this remarkably insightful daily guide. He says, daily I examine my person on 3 counts. And these aren't just, casual thoughts. They're a commitment to rigorous self-assessment. Continuous improvement is actually a deeply humble practice, but it builds profound confidence.
Okay, 3 counts. What are they?
First, he asks, in my undertakings on behalf of other people, have I failed to do my utmost?
Zong.
Zong. Okay, utmost. What does that mean exactly?
Eh.
Well, Zong here isn't just blind loyalty. It's more like a dedicated sense of duty conscientiousness. It's about making sure that when you act for others, whether it's your team, your constituents, your family, whoever you're giving your absolute best. No cutting corners, no negligence, genuinely prioritizing their well-being. It's a deep commitment to service, recognizing your role isn't just about you.
Right, it's not about personal gain.
Not at all. Second, in my interactions with colleagues and friends, have I failed to make good on my word?
Just trustworthiness.
Exactly. Trustworthiness, integrity, keeping your promises, being reliable, making sure your words consistently match your actions. That's fundamental. It builds a reputation for consistency, dependability. That's the bedrock of any healthy relationship, personal or professional. It's how you earn respect rather than just demand it because of your title.
Okay, duty and trustworthiness. What's the third?
The third is, in what has been passed on to me have I failed to carry it into practice?
So learning and applying.
Yes. Active application. Continuous learning. It's not enough just to get knowledge or receive instructions. A leader has to actively internalize it, put it into practice. It shows a commitment to personal and professional growth.
So it's this cycle. Duty, trustworthiness, practice.
Precisely. It's not just passive reflection. It's a proactive commitment. And this cycle of self-improvement directly impacts your ability to lead authentically. It's this constant self-correction that creates that inner security, allowing a leader to be confident without being arrogant.
That idea of a daily check-in, it feels really personal, almost like a quiet conversation with yourself. But for a leader today facing immense pressure, what's the sense? The psychological leap needed to prioritize this internal accountability over all the noise, the external demands, a constant chase for external validation.
It's huge. It's a radical shift, isn't it?
It feels like it, in a world rewarding outward performance so much.
It really is. It's a leap from focusing on external metrics to focusing on internal rectitude, your own moral compass. And that demands a different kind of courage, I think.
And Confucius connects this personal stuff to running a whole state.
He does. He doesn't just keep these virtues personal. He scales them right up to governing an entire state, showing they're universally applicable. He gives a clear blueprint for stable, benevolent leadership. It's focused on the people's well-being and the leader's integrity.
Okay, what's the blueprint?
He says, the way to lead 1,000-chariot state effectively, that's a big state back then, is to carry out your official duties respectfully and make good on your word. Be frugal in your expenditures and love your peers. And put the common people to work only at the proper time of year.
Okay, let's break that down. Respectful duty.
It means leaders approach their roles with seriousness, with reverence, understanding the huge responsibility they have to the state, to the citizens. It instills confidence, actually, because people know their leader is taking it seriously.
Okay. And making good on your word, that's the tight again.
Exactly. Trustworthiness again. A leader's promises to the public must be upheld to keep legitimacy and trust. That's essential for genuine loyalty, not just coerced obedience.
Frugal in expenditures. That sounds relevant today.
Doesn't it? It's a clear message against corruption, against self-interest. Prioritize public resources over, lavish personal gain. A leader is a steward of the collective wealth, not its owner. That shows humility in using power.
Love your peers. What does that mean in a leadership context?
It underlines the importance of fostering strong, loyal, collaborative relationships within the leadership circle itself. Internal cohesion is vital for effective governing. It prevents infighting from undermining the state. It's a humble recognition that you need your team, that it's about collective strength.
Right, not a one-person show. And the last part, Putting people to work only at the proper time.
This shows real empathy and practical wisdom, understanding the cycles of life, especially farming seasons back then, not imposing huge burdens like building projects during harvest time, which would cause hardship or damage livelihoods.
So it shows a leader who's actually connected to the people's reality.
Exactly. Attuned to the real needs and rhythms of society, not just abstract policies that reflect profound humility, but also grounded confidence in knowing what's practical.
This whole approach, it reminds me of that other powerful quote from the Analects. The wise are not in a quandary. The authoritative wren are not anxious. The courageous are not timid.
Ah, yes, that's a perfect summary.
It paints this picture of a leader who is just internally secure, not flustered by uncertainty or fear. They're grounded, calm in their principles. Their confidence isn't performative, it feels inherent.
Precisely. Their confidence doesn't come from external validation, right?
Yeah.
Or needing to project this image of being infallible.
Okay.
It comes from their deep moral grounding, that relentless self-cultivation we talked about.
They're secure in their principles.
And that security lets them navigate uncertainty without anxiety, face challenges without getting timid. It's a truly internalized kind of confidence. Think about Zedong's praise of Confucius. It captures the lasting impact beautifully.
Remind me.
Zedong said, "He gave them a place, and they took a stand. He led them forward, and they followed. He brought peace, and they flocked to him. He aroused them, and they achieved harmony. In life, he was glorious, and in death, he was mourned."
Oh.
See, this isn't about mere popularity or some cult of personality. It describes a leader whose influence is so profound, so authentic, that it inspires people to align, it fosters deep loyalty, creates a lasting positive impact that lives on even after they're gone.
Their actions, their character become the standard.
Exactly. The standard that others willingly follow, not out of fear, but out of genuine respect and wanting to be part of something noble. That's the quiet power, the real strength of the confident, humble leader.
Okay, so Confucius gives us this incredibly compelling moral blueprint. Leadership rooted in inner virtue, in service, as the bedrock of authority. But let's be honest, in the often ruthless, results-driven world we live in, especially in politics or big business, his philosophy might feel, to some people, maybe a bit quaint, perhaps even naive.
Yeah, I can see how people might think that. Idealistic, maybe?
So how does this ancient wisdom really confront or maybe offer a profound critique of those leadership philosophies that are purely focused on gaining and maintaining power regardless of the moral cost? I mean, this is the core of the debate you see in texts like Machiavelli's The Prince, isn't it?
You've hit on the crucial point there, because the contrast, it couldn't be starker. It really couldn't. If we connect Confucius to this bigger picture, Machiavelli's The Prince presents a philosophy that is, in so many ways, just diametrically opposed.
How so, specifically?
Well, Machiavelli's advice to a ruler is famously pragmatic, right? It focuses entirely on efficacy, what works. He advises a prince to know how to do wrong and to make use of it or not according to necessity.
Know how to do wrong. That's pretty blunt.
It is. The focus is squarely on retaining the state, expanding power, even if it means abandoning what looks like virtue for security and prosperity. This is the complete antithesis of a confident, humble leader grounding authority in moral conduct.
So for Machiavelli, looking virtuous is okay, maybe even useful.
Yes, appearing virtuous, performing acts of piety, faking compassion that can be useful. But you don't actually have to be virtuous. The ends, for him, very much justify the means. Maintaining power becomes the ultimate virtue, even if it requires deception, cruelty, breaking promises. He literally argues a prince needs to learn how not to be good and use that knowledge when the situation demands it, because acting virtuously all the time could lead to ruin.
That's a huge divergence. It's entirely about what you do to get results, even if it's morally questionable, not who you are as a person deep down. Machiavelli seems to be saying, be clever, be cunning, be effective, and don't let morality trip you up.
That's a pretty good summary, yeah.
But doesn't that approach often lead to just short-term gains? Doesn't it sacrifice long-term stability and trust? Is there a hidden cost to that kind of leadership?
Absolutely, and that's precisely where the confident, humble leader offers a profoundly different and arguably much more sustainable path. Machiavelli, he illustrates his points with these anecdotes that highlight cunning and self-interest, not moral rectitude.
Like what? Give me an example.
He tells stories about Castruccio Castracani, a historical figure Machiavelli really admired for his brilliance and ruthlessness. For example, when Castruccio was asked how Caesar died, he apparently replied, "God willing, I will die as he did."
So admiring the power, not the person. Or maybe the dramatic end.
Exactly. It wasn't admiration for Caesar's virtue, but for his strategic genius, his single-minded pursuit of power, maybe even the drama of it all. Another story. A friend criticized him for being, quote, taken in by a woman. Castruccio shot back, "She has not taken me in, I have taken her."
Okay, so it's about wit, control, manipulation.
Right. These are not tales of duty, trustworthiness, or loving your peers in the Confucian sense. Not at all. They're examples of leaders driven by sharp wit, strategic manipulation, and unwavering focus on personal gain or control. The whole thrust is about outsmarting, dominating, asserting yourself, often with a kind of theatrical flair. It's not about adhering to a moral code or building genuine trust. Such a leader might inspire fear, maybe grudging respect, but rarely deep loyalty or lasting affection.
And this contrast between character and just the structure of power, you see that elsewhere too.
You do. It becomes even clearer when you look at someone like Aristotle.
Hmm.
In his Politics, Aristotle comes at leadership from a fundamentally different angle than Confucius.
How so?
He defines a constitution as an organization of a city-state's various offices, but particularly of the one that has authority over everything. He notes that the governing class has authority in every city-state.
Yeah.
So while Aristotle definitely talks about virtue in his broader philosophy,
Yeah.
when he's looking at political systems specifically, the main focus is on the structure of authority. Is it democratic, oligarchic, tyrannical, some other form? Where does the authority actually sit in the state?
Oh, okay, so it's more about the system, the mechanics of power.
Right. And this framework, while it's essential for understanding political organization, it highlights that how power is organized and used can be quite separate from the moral character of the individual leaders. Confucius, in profound contrast, puts the leader's personal virtue, their ren, at the absolute core of effective governance. He's suggesting that the person of the leader is as crucial as, maybe even more crucial than, the structure of the state itself. Without the right character at the top, even the most perfect constitution can fail.
And we've seen that happen, haven't we, throughout history, even now. When leaders prioritize power at all costs, when that governing class acts without the moral grounding Confucius talked about, it often leads to instability or just a lack of enduring greatness.
Exactly.
This isn't just some ancient philosophical debate. It has very real consequences. And actually, a modern leadership text, Good to Great, gives us a strong counterexample to this purely Machiavellian, power-focused approach. It highlights how even brilliantly successful leaders can fall short in sustaining long-term greatness if they lack certain characteristics.
That's an excellent connection, because Good to Great explicitly criticizes leaders who, quote, had trouble leaving center stage and letting go of the perks of executive kingship.
Executive kingship. I like that phrase.
It's evocative, isn't it? The book contrasts truly great, enduring companies with merely good ones, and a key difference was the type of leadership at the very top. It brings up the compelling example of Lee Iacocca.
The Chrysler guy, right, saved the company.
He did. A brilliant turnaround of Chrysler in the early 80s literally pulled the company back from the brink of collapse. An amazing feat. But ultimately, he presided over a company whose greatness was not sustained.
Why not? What happened?
Well, the book highlights how Iacocca postponed his retirement so many times that insiders at Chrysler began to joke that Iacocca stood for, "I am chairman of Chrysler Corporation always." Yeah. And it wasn't just a funny anecdote. It signaled this deep attachment to his personal position, to the spotlight. And even when he finally did retire, he demanded that the board continue to provide a private jet and stock options. He couldn't fully let go of the trappings of power.
Wow.
And then later, in an almost unbelievable twist, he actually joined a hostile takeover bid for Chrysler, the very company he'd saved.
No way.
Yes. The book argues this behavior shows a profound attachment to personal power, prestige, the perks of leadership, rather than an unwavering focus on the enduring health of the institution itself.
So his ego got in the way.
It seems so.
Yeah.
It created what the authors call a doom loop pattern. The organization struggled to build sustained greatness because the top leadership was too focused on personal glory. This often led to new leaders coming in who felt they had to stop an already spinning flywheel and throw the company in a whole new direction, rather than building on existing strengths and a shared vision.
Disrupting the momentum.
Exactly. It suggests that a leader's ego, their executive persona, if it's not tempered by humility, can actually undermine the long-term success of the very organization they lead, even if they have immense talent and achieve initial success. The confident, humble leader, by contrast, channels their ego into the organization's success, not their personal legend.
So, an obsession with personal glory, or even just clinging to power too tightly, can sabotage the very organizations leaders are supposed to serve. It turns a potentially great legacy into one of instability. It's like leadership isn't a permanent personal possession to be guarded jealously,
Right.
but more like a stewardship, a temporary responsibility. And that's a critical point the Machiavellian approach just fundamentally misses, isn't it?
Completely misses it, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so if grandstanding self-interest and just holding on to power aren't the path to enduring leadership, what does this confident, humble leadership look like in action? How do these principles actually translate into tangible behaviors? Behaviors that earn genuine respect, inspire real loyalty, rather than just commanding obedience because of your position or maybe fear?
This is where we see these powerful lessons in leading by example, not just by decree, not just by rhetoric, which is something even, the most well-informed leader can sometimes lose sight of.
Right. Actions speak louder.
Exactly. Xenophon's Cyropaedia is this fascinating historical novel, sort of, about the upbringing and leadership of Cyrus the Great of Persia. It offers a really compelling picture of a leader who inspired his troops through his actions, through his character.
Okay, Cyrus the Great, what did he do?
Well, Cyrus firmly believed that if his officers show yourselves stout-hearted, you'll be teaching them courage, and others too, by deeds as well as words.
Deeds as well as words.
That's a fundamental principle, right?
Mm.
True leadership isn't just about giving orders or making motivational speeches. It's about embodying the virtues you want to see in your followers. Cyrus led from the front. He shared the hardships, the dangers. He demonstrated his commitment. His men saw him doing the work, living the values, and that built this undeniable, almost unspoken trust. He understood that actions resonate far more deeply than any speech, and that personal integrity, personal courage, it's contagious.
So Cyrus wasn't just talking the talk, he was really walking the walk. It's about demonstrating your values through your actual behavior, often in really profound ways.
Exactly. And his actions went way beyond just being brave in battle. After a big victory, for instance, Cyrus showed this remarkable magnanimity. It was an act of confident humility that really solidified his alliances.
How so? What did he do?
When all the spoil, the loot, was gathered, he called his officers together. And instead of claiming the biggest share for himself, which he probably could have,
Right, the leader's prerogative.
he proposed giving all the rest of the spoil, after setting aside portions for the gods and the army, of course, to Gobryas, who was a recently allied leader. And he declared, "Would it not be a noble thing, a sign and symbol at the outset, that we desire to outdo in well-doing those who do good to us?"
Wow, that's huge, giving away the prize.
It was huge. It wasn't just incredible generosity. It was a strategic demonstration of his character. He was confident enough in his own leadership and their collective strength that he didn't need to hoard resources or grab all the glory. His humility allowed him to elevate his allies, his men, knowing that their combined loyalty and zeal would ultimately bring a greater, more sustainable victory than any personal gain ever could.
It built trust, a real bond.
An unshakable bond. And furthermore, Cyrus was keenly aware of the impact of his men's contributions. When one of his allies, Gadatas, noted the zealous support from all the different groups fighting with him, Persians, Medes, Hyrcanians, Armenians, all these different peoples, Cyrus, in turn, specifically credited their zeal for their success. This kind of reciprocal appreciation, it fostered this strong sense of shared purpose. It made everyone feel genuinely valued. It reinforced loyalty and enthusiasm, not through fear, but through genuine respect and explicit recognition. He got that the collective effort was paramount, and a leader's role was to catalyze that and acknowledge it.
That's a really powerful way to build a team, isn't it? By showing generosity, valuing their contributions. It's not about being the only star, but lifting everyone up. Showing the leader is there for the collective good, not just themselves. It creates a sense of shared victory.
Absolutely. And the Bhagavad Gita takes this concept even further, really focusing on action rooted in duty rather than attachment to the results, which is a cornerstone, I think, of confident humility.
Okay, the Bhagavad Gita. How does that connect?
Well, in this sacred Hindu text, Lord Kuntz instructs the warrior Arjuna. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, that's the warrior or ruler class in ancient India. Tija tells him not to abandon his duty, even though it means fighting his own kin out of fear or attachment. He emphasizes the soul is immortal, the body is just temporary.
So focus on the duty, not the consequences.
Exactly. Arjuna is encouraged to fulfill his role, even in this terrible battle, without being bewildered by material enjoyment or opulence. That Sanskrit phrase, bhogajoya prasaktanam, It describes this deep attachment to worldly grandeur, to power, to the superficial trappings of success.
Like the executive kingship we talked about.
Precisely. It's not just about wealth. It's about the ego's addiction to the show of leadership, the praise, the material comforts that come with it. It's a powerful warning against exactly that kind of thing.
So how does this teaching promote humble leadership?
It promotes a humble approach to action. The leader acts for a higher, righteous purpose for the sake of duty itself, dharma, rather than for personal reward, gain, or fear of loss. The focus shifts from the outcome, which, let's face it, is often beyond a leader's ultimate control,
Right.
to the integrity and the quality of the action itself. The text stresses that true success comes from acting fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord, not acting like you're the master of the world.
So it frames the leader almost as a servant.
In a way, yes, like a servant of a supreme master or a higher principle, unaffected by profit or loss, faithfully discharging their responsibilities. Now, this requires immense confidence, but not confidence in your own ego or your ability to control outcomes. It's confidence in the righteous nature of the duty itself, the higher purpose it serves. It's an unshakable inner conviction that grounds your actions.
So the confidence isn't in their own ego or personal power, but in the righteousness of their cause, their adherence to duty, no matter the personal cost or the apparent outcome. That's a profound inner strength. And it seems built on a foundation of humility, that detachment from the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. And Cicero's On Duties, that foundational test on moral philosophy from ancient Rome, it reinforces this dedication to principle, even in the absolute hardest circumstances. It presents this deeply confident, yet fundamentally humble stance.
Cicero, okay, what does he emphasize?
He emphasizes that peace is always to be sought when it can be made on perfectly fair and honest conditions. But more than that, he highlights the importance of justice even in war. He advocates for sparing those who haven't been cruel or inhuman, even suggests admitting conquered people to citizenship, something Roman ancestors sometimes did. That shows foresight, magnanimity.
A higher moral standard beyond just winning.
Right. A commitment that transcends mere victory. Cicero firmly states, nothing unjust can be either expedient or serviceable. For him, principles like justice and honor, they aren't situational, they're absolute. They provide this unwavering moral compass for leadership. He even goes so far as to reject the idea that a promise forced out of you doesn't need to be kept, even if it was made to a rightful and legitimate enemy. That's a profound challenge to Machiavellian pragmatism, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Keeping your word even to an enemy under duress.
And the monumental example Cicero gives, one of the most powerful illustrations of this principle, is the tragic yet incredibly inspiring story of Regulus.
Ah, Regulus. Tell us about him.
Marcus Attilius Regulus. He was a Roman general captured by the Carthaginians during the First Punic War. He was sent back to Rome on parole, basically, to negotiate a prisoner exchange. His oath was, if the mission failed, he'd return to Carthage.
Okay, so he goes back to Rome.
He goes back. But, knowing Carthage was weakened, Regulus, with immense personal courage, advises the Roman Senate against the exchange. He argued it wasn't in Rome's long-term interest to swap seasoned Carthaginian soldiers for captured Roman officers who were maybe old or disgraced.
But he knew what that meant for him personally.
Oh, he knew full well. By advising against the deal, he was condemning himself. He had to return to Carthage, as his oath compelled him, to face torture and certain death, which is exactly what happened.
That's incredible self-sacrifice.
Incredible. Despite it being clearly inexpedient for his own survival, and maybe even seeming inexpedient for Rome in the short term, Regulus believed it was right for himself to express his opinion and to suffer for the country's long-term honor and integrity. Cicero quotes Regulus's core belief: nothing is expedient which is not also right, nor is anything right because it is expedient, but expedient because it is right.
Wow. Expedient because it is right. That turns Machiavelli completely on his head.
Completely. It's a stark refusal to separate expediency from morality. Regulus showed this unwavering commitment to principle over personal survival, over immediate gain. He was the ultimate confident, humble leader, confident in his moral compass, confident in his counsel for Rome's future, and humble enough to accept his horrific fate for a higher purpose, the long-term honor of his nation. He didn't look for a loophole. He faced the consequences with absolute integrity.
That's an amazing story. But let me just play devil's advocate for a moment. From a purely Machiavellian view, wouldn't Regulus's decision look, well, strategically disastrous? A leader sacrificing himself for an oath, potentially weakening the state, losing a valuable general. How do you argue for Regulus's path in a world that often rewards results and survival above all? It feels almost impossibly idealistic.
It does feel that way, and that's precisely why it resonates so deeply, I think, across time. While Machiavelli might call it foolish, Cicero, and by extension the confident humble leader framework, would argue Regulus's act wasn't just about his personal honor, it was about establishing a profound moral precedent for Rome.
How so?
It showed their enemies and their own citizens that Rome's word, even under duress, was inviolable. That builds a different kind of power, doesn't it? The power of reputation, of trust, of moral authority, and that can be far more enduring than any tactical gain. It's a long-term investment in national character. Regulus's confidence came from knowing he was doing the right thing, and his humility allowed him to accept the immense personal cost for that greater, more enduring good.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a different kind of strategic thinking.
It is, and this concept, this inner conviction, this self-contained praise, it's echoed beautifully in Emerson's essays, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He suggests that all just persons are satisfied with their own praise. They refuse to explain themselves and are content that new actions should do them that office.
Satisfied with their own praise, let actions speak.
Exactly. It describes a leader whose confidence is so deeply rooted, they don't need external validation, accolades, self-promotion. Their actions are their testament. Their integrity speaks for itself. True greatness, Emerson implies, is always in a tendency or direction, not in an action. It's about aligning with fundamental principles, with a moral compass, not about seeking individual recognition or the spotlight. Such a leader's worth is intrinsic, not dependent on fickle public opinion. And that requires immense confidence to stand firm and deep humility to let go of the need for applause.
That's a powerful thought. Your actions are your own applause. This leads pretty directly to the idea of a servant-first leader, doesn't it? Someone operating from that internal compass, that sense of duty for others, not personal ambition.
Yes, absolutely. Robert Greenleaf's seminal work, The Servant as Leader, directly asks that question. What does that mean to you? And he suggests that the great leader is seen as servant first, meaning the leader prioritizes the growth, the well-being, the empowerment of the people they serve, above their own self-interest or their own desires for power.
It's not a passive role, though, right?
Not at all. It requires profound confidence to truly step back and empower others, and duck humility to focus on their needs. It implies this subtle but really powerful shift from being a leader with power, who might wield it for personal gain, to being a leader for the people, who uses their position to enable and empower others.
That perspective aligns perfectly with Confucius, doesn't it? Doing your utmost for others, loving your peers. And Cyrus sharing the spoils, crediting his men.
Exactly. It's a leadership that builds through fostering, nurturing, facilitating, not through overt control or command. It's fundamentally humble, yet deeply confident in its purpose.
Okay, this deep dive is really showing how, well, how timeless these ideas are, how wisdom from across millennia seems to converge on these similar truths about really effective leadership. It's not just philosophy, it feels practical. So how do these ancient virtues, authoritative conduct, duty, trustworthiness, leading by example, servant leadership, how do they translate into practical leadership today? In our fast-paced, complex, modern world, what does it actually look like when these principles are put into action?
Well, the idea of taking ownership is absolutely central. And it's a direct modern manifestation, I think, of that humble confidence. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, drawing on their experience as U.S. Navy SEALs. But the lessons are universal.
Right, I know that book. Very powerful.
It is. They emphasize that leaders should never be satisfied. They must always strive to improve. They must face the facts through a realistic, brutally honest assessment of themselves and their team's performance. Identifying weaknesses, good leaders seek to strengthen them.
Brutally honest assessment, that takes guts.
It does. And their core belief is just unequivocal. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Now, this isn't about blaming yourself unnecessarily. It's about accepting ultimate, absolute responsibility for everything under your command, everything that happens on your watch.
The buck stops here.
Exactly. This willingness to take full ownership for failures, which requires immense confidence in yourself to handle the truth and not crumble under the pressure, is coupled with the profound humility to admit shortcomings and constantly seek improvement. It's the confident leader who is secure enough to stand up and say, okay, that was on me, here's what we learned, here's how we fix it. And it's the humble leader who knows there's always more to learn, always room to improve, rather than deflecting blame or making excuses. It's a relentless, self-correcting drive.
So it's being secure enough in yourself to constantly examine and improve rather than getting defensive or deflecting blame, which often comes from insecurity, right? It's channeling that confidence into taking responsibility and using humility as a tool for growth.
What's the psychological leap involved in adopting that mindset, especially when the stakes are high. It feels like it goes against our instincts
It's a
sometimes.
huge psychological leap, yeah. Because it means relinquishing the ego's need to be seen as perfect, as always right. And this ties beautifully into Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Covey advocates for principle-centered living.
Ah, yes. The 7 habits, still so relevant.
Incredibly relevant. Covey states that correct principles do not change. They offer a solid foundation for development. These principles, things like fairness, integrity, honesty, human dignity, unlike people or circumstances, they're immutable. They don't change with the weather.
They're like a North Star. Exactly. As the text explains, principles don't react to anything. They won't divorce us or run away with our best friend. They aren't out to get us. They provide this unwavering source of security, guidance, wisdom, and power. For a leader, grounding yourself in these timeless principles provides a deep inner core that doesn't fluctuate with external pressures or shifting trends. This allows for consistent, ethical decision-making, which in turn builds enduring trust and confidence from the people you lead. It's the ultimate source of self-reliance, not in an egocentric way, but in a principled way.
And how does this principle-centered approach help with prioritizing? Leaders are always swamped.
That's another key benefit. A principle-centered approach helps leaders prioritize effectively, moving beyond just constant crisis management, putting out fires. It enables them to say a bigger yes to what truly matters by saying no to less important things. It helps focus on what Covey calls quadrant 2 activities.
Quadrant 2, remind me what those are.
Those are the activities that are important, but not urgent. Things like relationship building, long-term planning, personal development, preventative maintenance. Think of a leader who dedicates an hour each week to genuinely mentor a junior team member, or who spends time proactively developing a new strategy that isn't due next week, but will shape the next 5 years.
The stuff that gets pushed aside when you're busy?
Exactly. Those are quadrant 2 tipped activities. They're not screaming for attention today, but they build long-term capability, loyalty, future leadership. That's precisely the kind of principle-centered action that avoids constant crisis management down the line.
It's proactive, not reactive.
Right. And the text also highlights that the essence of synergy is to value the differences.
Yeah.
And crucially, in order to have influence, you have to be influenced.
Ah, okay. Influence requires being influenced.
Yes. This requires deep listening, a genuine desire for mutually beneficial outcomes, a win-win approach. It echoes Confucius's emphasis on relationships, trustworthiness, doing your utmost for others. It acknowledges that collective intelligence and diverse perspectives lead to far better solutions than just individual command or top-down directives alone.
That's really where humility meets effectiveness, isn't it? Recognizing you don't have all the answers, that valuing others' perspectives actually makes you and the team stronger. It's like a pragmatic embrace of humility, not a weakness, but a strategic advantage for building robust, innovative solutions.
Exactly. And it stands in such stark contrast to leaders who are, as Covey puts it, scripted deeply in logical, verbal, left-brain thinking, and find that totally inadequate when problems demand creativity and relational intelligence. Or, insecure people who tend to clone others and don't genuinely value different viewpoints because it threatens them. A truly confident, humble leader embraces the complexity of human interaction, the richness of diverse thought, and the power of collaborative problem solving.
There's also a more subtle, almost spiritual aspect to this quiet strength we've been discussing, isn't there? It's not just about practical management techniques, but a deeper way of being, a kind of philosophical stance on influence itself.
That's where Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching captures it so beautifully. It offers this profound image for humble leadership, achieving ends without overt force or dazzling display. The wise shape without cutting, square without sawing, true without forcing, they are the light that does not shine.
The light that does not shine. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's not an absence of influence. It's a form of profound, almost effortless leadership. Think of a natural ecosystem, right? The sun doesn't command the plants to grow, but its consistent, pervasive influence creates the conditions for life to flourish. Similarly, the Taoist leader, the wise leader, creates an environment of justice, clarity, support, allowing people to do their best naturally without needing overt control or constant directives.
Leading by creating the right conditions?
Yes. Lao Tzu says it's an idea that needs to be pondered and brooded over, a small, dark light, suggesting its power isn't an immediate, obvious impact, but in its subtle, pervasive, enduring effect. It's about leading with such wisdom and integrity that the right things happen almost as if by themselves, without the leader needing to constantly assert control. That's maybe the ultimate expression of confident humility. confidence in the natural order of things and people's potential, and the humility to step back and let those natural processes unfold.
It suggests true power isn't about being seen or making a loud noise, but about creating those conditions where things naturally flourish, where people are empowered to do their best because the environment is just, clear, supportive. It's about building a system that sustains itself. Let's look at some more real-world examples, maybe. Historical, contemporary leaders who embodied this or perhaps struggled with it in complex ways.
Certainly. In the military realm, Clausewitz, the famous strategist in his work on small war, emphasizes the general's role in ensuring secrecy, uprightness, justice, to maintain order. He says, the skillful general conducts his army just as though he were leading a single man, willy-nilly by the hand.
Leading an army like a single person.
Yeah, it suggests this deep connection, this implicit trust built through character, not just rank or command. This kind of leadership is about profound understanding and influence, not brute force. It echoes that Taoist idea of natural influence. It implies a leader who knows their people so intimately, understands their motivations so well, that they can guide them with just a touch rather than a heavy hand. Because that connection is built on a foundation of trust and respect qualities that require both confidence in your own judgment and humility to understand the needs of the individual soldier.
Okay. What about in politics and social change, where the stakes are often incredibly high and leaders have to stand firm against immense pressure, sometimes from the very people they're trying to serve?
The Federalist Papers speak really powerfully to this, specifically regarding the role of judges. They highlight the need for an uncommon portion of fortitude in the judges to do their duty as faithful guardians of the Constitution, where legislative invasions of it had been instigated by the major voice of the community.
Fortitude against the majority voice.
Exactly. This is maybe the ultimate example of confident, humble leadership within a system. Standing on principle, on the bedrock of constitutional law, even against popular sentiment, against the immediate will of the majority. Because their duty is to that higher foundational law. It requires immense inner strength, conviction to resist popular pressure. And it requires profound humility to serve a document, a set of principles, rather than your own ambition or the fleeting demands of public opinion. It's an act of profound confidence in the rule of law and profound humility in serving it.
That's a powerful example of institutional leadership.
It is. Now, for a more complex, maybe more nuanced case, one that beautifully illustrates the limits of confidence when it's not coupled with genuine humility, we can look at Robert Moses. As detailed in Robert Caro's incredible biography, The Power Broker.
Ah, Robert Moses, the builder of modern New York in many ways.
In so many ways, a colossal figure who, for decades, basically unilaterally shaped much of New York City's infrastructure, parks, highways, bridges. He had immense drive, political savvy, and an undeniably powerful vision for public good, at least as he saw it.
He got things done.
He absolutely got things done. He was a master of charm and persuasion when needed, but also of thinly veiled threats. He famously told a farmer who wouldn't sell his land, "The state is all supreme when it comes to a condemnation proceeding. If we want your land, we can take it."
Wow, that's raw power.
Raw power. He worked tirelessly, often through the night, scribbling notes on yellow legal pads, fueled by this almost messianic belief in his own vision. And he did have some genuinely progressive ideas, like making public parks accessible to everyone, not just the rich, which he achieved on Long Island. So this shows a leader with immense confidence in his vision and almost superhuman ability to execute.
But
There's a but coming.
there is a big but. His leadership consistently lacked humility, lacked a truly collaborative spirit. He was accused, quite rightly sometimes, of being anti-democratic and reactionary because of his unwavering, often autocratic methods. He famously refused to call Governor Roosevelt governor, insisting on "Dear Frank," even in official letters, a subtle but significant power play.
Undermining authority. Right. He often ran his state parks council without always consulting or even notifying the governor about major policy decisions, essentially bypassing formal structures. His supreme confidence in his own judgment often tipped over into profound arrogance that alienated potential allies and just bulldozed over legitimate concerns from communities. His career eventually saw a decline of Robert Moses as the power behind the throne. And it wasn't just because of changing political winds. Arguably, it was because even his immense personal power and clear vision, without broader buy-in, without collaboration, without sustained humility, ultimately faltered. It's a powerful lesson. Raw, unadulterated confidence, uncoupled from the tempering force of genuine humility and respect for others' input, has its limits. even for someone as effective as Moses.
That's a fascinating and I think crucial look at the complexities, where even well-intentioned leaders with undeniable accomplishments can struggle with humility and collaboration, ultimately impacting their long-term effectiveness and legacy. But what about leaders who champion human dignity in the face of just immense oppression, where their very being feels like an act of confident humility?
Frederick Douglass, in his narrative, provides such a profound illustration of this. He describes his journey, how a slave was made a man. It showcases his incredible self-liberation, but also his unwavering commitment to his fellow human beings. His tendency was upward, he writes, and he bent himself to devising ways and means for our escape. But crucially, he says he was not willing to cherish this determination alone.
Not alone, that's key.
Absolutely key. His confidence wasn't just in his individual escape, it was in the profound belief that freedom was a universal right. He dedicated himself to imbue their minds with thoughts of freedom, seeing warm hearts and noble spirits in his fellow slaves who were dear to me. This is confident leadership rooted in a profound belief in human dignity and unshakable moral purpose. But it's coupled with the humility to empower others, to act collectively, to share the struggle and the path to freedom. His vision wasn't just for himself, it was for a liberated community. That requires immense self-assurance in the cause and the humility to lead alongside, not just above, his people.
And Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail shows a similar spirit, right? Principled, nonviolent leadership, confronting injustice with unwavering moral authority, but also with incredible humility in the face of suffering.
Indeed. He meticulously described the hard, brutal facts of injustice in Birmingham, the consistent refusal of the city fathers to negotiate in good faith, despite repeated promises. Yet, despite these broken promises, despite the deep disappointment, he and the other leaders undertook this rigorous process of self-purification. They held detailed workshops on nonviolence, asking profound questions like, are you able to accept blows without retaliating?
Preparing for the cost.
Yes. This is the confident humility of principled action, confident in the righteousness of their cause, confident in the inherent power of nonviolence, yet humble enough to prepare for suffering, to endure physical and emotional blows without abandoning their moral integrity. It's about maintaining dignity and commitment to a moral cause even when provoked by injury. It echoes Cicero's principles of justice, limits to revenge. It's a leadership that doesn't shy away from confrontation, but insists on moral integrity in its approach. It demonstrates profound inner strength that comes not from an aggressive ego, but from an unshakable moral core. Hashtag outro.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive that was into the real essence of leadership. We've traveled from ancient China to modern management, from ancient battlefields to the civil rights movements, revealing that the most enduring forms of leadership, they often aren't about self-aggrandizement or sheer force, are they?
Not at all. They're about this powerful, often quiet blend of confidence and humility. It's a paradox, like we said at the start, but when you understand it, it really unlocks true influence.
Yeah. We've seen how Confucius champions authoritative conduct, Ren, trustworthiness, caring for the common good through that daily self-cultivation.
And how Cyrus inspired that profound loyalty in action through deeds of magnanimity, sharing purpose, not just words.
And figures like Regulus, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King Jr., standing on unwavering principle, even at great personal cost, demonstrating that true confidence really can only flourish when it's rooted in genuine humility and a commitment to higher values, whether that's values for the state, for human dignity, for moral justice.
Exactly. That light that does not shine, as Lao Tzu put it. Yeah. Maybe that is the most powerful kind of leadership.
It feels like it. It's about building that solid foundation of principles, taking extreme ownership of your actions and their consequences, and fostering an environment where everyone can actually thrive, contribute authentically.
It's about leading by earning respect through character, through what you do and who you are, rather than demanding it through charisma or just your position. It's a profound internal kind of power that quietly transforms things.
So this deep dive, it really challenges us, doesn't it? To look beyond the superficial displays and ask ourselves, how can we in our own lives cultivate that quiet strength? The strength of the confident, humble leader.
Yeah, how can we act with conviction and integrity, upholding our duties, our word, while still remaining open to influence, capable of that honest self-assessment, and dedicated to the growth and well-being of others rather than just personal glory or fleeting admiration? That balance, it's truly transformative, and it really begins within each of us.
So, for your own reflection, as you listen, what single principle from today's discussion Maybe it's Confucius's Ren and the daily self-check. Maybe the Bhagavad Gita's duty without attachment. Or perhaps extreme ownership's call for radical responsibility. What one thing will you commit to examining, maybe implementing in your own leadership, however big or small that role might be?
Yeah, how can you become a leader who, as Emerson suggested, is satisfied with their own praise, letting your actions speak for themselves quietly, confidently, and humbly?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us on this, well, I found it an enlightening journey into the heart of timeless leadership. We hope this deep dive into the confident, humble leader has given you much to ponder.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep leading with purpose and character.